And I'm just going to show you some slides of where the flower of life has been found around the world and the information associated with it. And this is in Greece, in Crete. And you see the dolphins here and the flower of life information on the floor, the original petal from it. And this is in Ireland. I'm just going to show you places all over. This one's really good. This is a door plate, so a door handle goes through here. And you see the 13 circles of the fruit of life. And these three form a Star of David around these three with the Star of David in the middle. And then look carefully in here and you see the inner pattern of the flower of life. And more of these three all have the inner pattern of the flower of life inside of here. And it's a circle with two lines around it and all this stuff. It's pretty good. Anyway, that came out of Ireland. This came out of Turkey, the 6 days of Genesis. And it's not that. It's you actually not only see the 6 days of Genesis, but you see this paddle of the 6 days of Genesis and these two side by side. This is the inner six petals. This is the, where's that thing anyway? If you look at the central one, it's the inner six petals, and you'll see this over and over and over and over around the world. You'll see that one, and then right beside it, it'll show the inter one of the whole with these other 6 loops around it. These 6 loops here, and that's like the minimum amount of information. Those 3 patterns for the flower of life. And in other places you'll see those same 3 patterns all over, as at the monastery of St. Catherine, when you go up to Sinai, where Moses found the burning bush and talked to God. There's a Coptic monastery there, and when I went in there, they won't let you take cameras in there, but it's all over the ceiling. We already know the Coptics were involved in this, but even in modern day time, they still have the information on the ceiling. This is this thing here is in the background was an image that we took off of a wooden box which is the seed of life. And the wooden box was found in Tibet, and inside it, and it's the seed of life, and what was found inside of it was an instrument for planting seeds. And so if you're going to keep a seed planter in something, it would be very appropriate, especially if you knew what that image was. And this image here, which we took out of the flower of life, remember when we had that symbol and all that stuff, when you color it in, is the yin-yang of the Tao symbol. And again, though I only have not really got into it, the Tao Te Ching and the I Ching, and the 64 changes of the I Ching and all that information, which is one of the oldest books in the world, is all directly related to the flower of life. This is Masada, Israel, which is where the original 300 Egyptian members of the Egyptian mystery school of Akhenaten, after they'd risen to immortality. And if you go into the center of this ruins to this ancient church, and into the middle of that church, and this is the floor of the center of their church. You can't see it here because this is a copy of a copy of a copy of the slide, but I did have the original in. This is the flower of life pattern. Most of the floor is gone. But this pattern right in here, if you can clearly see it, is very, very clearly the outer rim of the flower of life, showing that the Essene Brotherhood also knew what the flower of life was. But then, since the Coptics and the Essenes are both, from our point of view, coming from the same source, it's not too unusual. This is coming out of India, and the Call Mystery School went into India a long time ago, giving all the geometrical information from Atlantis, the Sri Yantra, and all these kinds of things are all the geometrical patterns, like in here, of the 6 stars around one and everything, are all the geometrical patterns of this information. Their very temples are laid out into this information. Every stone is just like in Egypt. Those temples there are also equally involved in the same information. This is also Hindu. It's a this is my drawing, but I copied it from a mandala. It's a Hindu mandala on Tantra. And when you look carefully at the information inside of here, somebody take this thing. I don't know if that's what's doing it or not. I'm not sure. You got these 7 triangles in here with that purple, and of course you guys know now what that is, especially when you look at this thing. It's the star tetrahedral field. Now this is Tantra we're talking about, and they're discussing Tantra and simultaneously discussing conception. And remember, the egg turns into one of these things, the original 8 cells. And then it becomes a cube, which is the cubical nature of it. And they show the star tetrahedral field, and another way of depicting a cube on a flat field is 2 squares. And all of that is inside a round sphere with 2 lines going around it, the inner and outer surface. So they're showing this is the metaphysics inside of the ovum. And then out here you see 8 organic-looking cells that go to 16 organic-looking cells, showing that they knew about the binary sequence of the nature of life. And then they also put a dot in every other one, which to me is showing that the original 8 remain unique unto themselves. And all of that goes back into a sphere, which the process does do. It goes from a sphere to these other forms in here, and then back to a sphere. And behind here, you see the square that forms the phi ratio, giving you the ratio of life. And this is it's a remarkable piece of work, considering how ancient it is and what it's talking about. Okay, back to the merkaba, which this is about. This is closing the scroll of the right eye of Horus. And this is Machiavinda Melchizedek holding the Holy Grail, which is the Machiavinda Melchizedek. He's the one that's been here, right? Holding the Holy Grail, and which is the focus will soon be on England and the Holy Grail and what this is all about. And that's the end of the slides. Okay, and now got to switch to another time in history, not too far back. And I'm about to tell you something that is more outrageous than anything else I've said before. You're all ready, I can tell. And it was real hard for me to talk about it because I knew what was going on, but it was hard for me when they first told me to go tell. 7.5 years ago, it was very hard to talk about this. And everybody sort of walked out going, and but when they started to create the grid 13,000 years ago, it was calculated that we would reach completion and be able to step through in approximately, and when I say approximately, they had it down to about 1 day, I think, approximately the winter of 1998, and that we would be able to move in during that time. And so everything was set up, and the sacred sites were created, and people all over the world in different races that were seemingly disconnected and had nothing to do with each other were working on this little grid, very much like this floor plan that's on the floor here. They were placing them in certain places all over the world, which affected and shaped this electromagnetic field outside the planet. And however, about 200 years ago, sometime in the 1700s, it became apparent to the father aspect may not be completed in time, and at least one person not make it through in time before something would happen. We needed just the grid completed and one person stepping through, which happened recently, 1989. But this needed to take place earlier than this, because there was something coming up that we needed to have this take place earlier. Not that we had to, the whole world had to make the translation, but there had to be, the grid just had to be completed, and we had to have a certain, at least one person living it. And so some point in the 1700s, it became apparent that we might not make it. And if we didn't make it by a certain time, and that time would have been approximately the winter of 1972, we would all die. And our daddy did not want this to happen. They really did not want to see us get hurt. But it looked like there was a very high probability that we wouldn't make it, because they knew what was going to happen. And so the Syrians began to make a serious investigation into the memory banks of the universe, looking for someone who had thought of a solution to our particular predicament. And what the result was, after checking all possible knowledge, was that there wasn't any solution. No one, in all cases that it all happened before, when a life form had gotten this close to making a change and didn't make it, the life form died. And there was no solution to the problem. And so it was probably a little disheartening for a while. However, they kept searching, and they found hidden deeply into ancient records, somewhere else was the originator of all of this. So I'm not sure, but it could have been anywhere. A little tiny seed, a little possibility of a way that if we did fail and not make it through, that there might be a way. Somebody conceived of a very intricate way that under these specific circumstances, that life might be able to make it through. No one's ever done it, but it was a game plan. It was a possibility. And so the Syrians took the information from the ancient past, and they began to proceed as though we weren't going to make it, even though they didn't actually know if we were or we were not, because it was going to be so close. And so they began to proceed, and they made, you might say, the hardware and the software, and trained all the people, and got everything ready to go. It took a while to do it, and they did it all. They made all their experiments, they studied, they did everything else, made sure that they had everything ready. And when they were all ready, they even had the ambassadors ready to go, everything that they would have needed. of the existing cultures that were coming in from other dimensional levels, of which there were approximately 80,000 at that time. They all reviewed the situation of Earth, and it was a very, let's just say, extremely heated debate over whether or not Earth would make it or not. And it was finally agreed upon by almost everybody that Earth did not stand a chance. Literally the words were, there was no hope. No life would make it through, not even a bug. Nothing, not even a bacteria, not anything would make it through. And so they left. They left us. They left us alone to die, because there was nothing we could do. They set up a field around the Earth that put us into a separate reality for a period of time, and then protected us from ourselves, from the sun, and then at the same time, and got permission to do what I'm about to tell you. They took away our free will for about 2 years, because, and only could have got that because we would have been totally wiped out anyway. It was kind of like if mommy and daddy came to into a kid and took all their, and they had knives or something in there, and took them all away from them and said, sorry, you can't have these things right now. They took away our ability to choose for a short time, shot the field around us, which began to control the actual events in our lives. This continued until they had to make sure it was working. When they first got it working, they didn't do anything. They didn't take any free will away or nothing. They just got it working, and then got the program going on, a program that would continue on as though nothing happened. They wanted to make sure it worked, but before the time when they knew the fusion reaction would take place, they then switched over and began experimenting. They got it to the place where finally they took away the free will, and they guided us very carefully over the next 2 years during this very crucial time. And what they did was they would keep giving you, or all of us, experiences in life that you might not normally have, that would make you evolve as rapidly as possible. And then after about 2 years, they gave the free will back, because they didn't really want to do that. They had to. They gave us free will back, but they kept the programming going. And so they'd give choices to you, but if you didn't pick the right one, they would just keep coming back at you. Because they really kind of, no, go this way. No, go this way. No, they're not. And all you need is all you need really is one. But if you've got two, then you're really together. If you've got two beings of at least Christ consciousness level, there's no problem. That's it. There's no problem for the entire planet. That's all it takes.
I mean, we didn't even have two here? Not even one?
Not that could do, no, we didn't. Not. We had ascended masters. They were looking for someone that had to be able to reach through and to take out the ship. I don't.
It had to be a woman.
Huh?
So it had to be female.
Well, it should be, but it didn't have to be. I don't really understand. This has come up before, and I don't really understand what the linkage is between the Ascended Masters and the body on the Earth and the relationship of that. I know that Thoth, who was one of the Ascended Masters, took the ship up before and said he could never do it again. And so I don't I don't understand that point fully, and I can't help you on that exactly. Why they needed someone new, someone out of this cycle. I don't know if this is because of the fall and that there was a separation. I don't understand. They were looking for someone of this cycle to be able to do it. Now, why? I don't know. I should be able to get that from the angels. I don't understand. It's come up before, but I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm sorry.
Is that form still out there?
It's still there right now, yes. They didn't know how long they were going to be able to do this. They needed to get us to a level of consciousness. They needed to get first of all, I know what part of the problem was. They didn't have the grid completed. Grid wasn't completed. And so it wasn't possible for us to make a transformation without the grid. And so it just simply wasn't done. It was almost done, but it wasn't done. And that was the primary thing that had to be completed. Yeah.
I remember listening to this story on your tape.
Yeah.
And just a couple of weeks ago on the show Sightings that's on Friday nights, Japanese cinematographer shot a shadow on the moon that's a 50-mile-long lozenge shape that would correspond to the ship you're talking about. So the shadow wasn't. The scientists who looked at it said they calculated from the shadow how long the ship would be, and they said 50 miles.
Oh, I see. I'm not quite sure how that's possible from that ship, but
I don't know. It was a clear lozenge shape on the movies.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you. I don't think it's that. See, they put the ship outside the membrane and put it up on a fourth dimensional level, specifically so it would not be seen, and put it outside the membrane so it wouldn't even be sensed. That's why they had to put it so far away. And I don't think that that's what that is. That might be something else, but I don't think that's what it is. What? Yes.
Is it active in any way at this time?
Yes, I'm about to tell you what continued on. Let me tell you the rest of what happened. They accelerated it worked. They didn't even know if it was going to work. Had no idea. They accelerated the evolution. And this is what started getting everything going. They accelerated our evolution synthetically. We just haven't stopped. We started going faster and faster and faster, and we started evolving extremely rapidly. And then everything just started taking off. And nobody expected this at all. And they got up to the place where, and each time, there were several times where they thought, well, there's no way they can hold this field any longer. And then just the whole earth and everything would be such that they would learn, the whole situation would become such that we could keep going. And we'd just keep going beyond all the places where we thought that it couldn't go any further. And it kept going up and going up and going up. And we kept going faster and faster and faster and faster. And we went past the place where we were going to make it or not make it. There wasn't any doubt about it anymore at one point whether we were going to make it or not. That wasn't even the issue anymore. The issue was, what's this speed that we're going at? This became the issue, is this evolutionary speed. It became extraordinary. And again, like I said before, we can't tell because we're inside the system. But relative to the rest of reality, we're in a synthetic environment now. And relative to the rest of the environment, we can't tell that we are moving at this blinding light speed relative to everything else. And so I remember at one point, even a long time ago, when Thos said the Ascended Masters were just going, holy cow, what's going on here? And at one point I said, well, how fast is it? He goes, he was like, He says, well, he says, in human terms, it would be like if you just had a baby, and you look down at the baby, and then suddenly, in 15 minutes, and when he says 15 minutes, he would calculate carefully that this was right. In 15 minutes, the baby becomes an adult right before your eyes. That's how fast we're moving and how outrageous it is. It's outrageous. The level that we're moving at is outrageous to the rest of life. It's just simply outrageous. And at first, when we started moving this fast, we started attracting the attention of many nearby other races. All these guys that left, the 80,000 that left, they all came back and brought friends with them. And pretty soon there was lots and lots of other people coming back here. And then, like I said before, or I think I did, the first overtone, which is where they usually come into, totally filled up. You couldn't even get near the earth. It was just like totally filled up with people. They went into the second overtone, and that's totally filled up. Keep going, we'll have to go into the third overtone even to be able to get more life here. It's just like you can't get any more life physically close to this place to watch it. It's ridiculous. And at this point, all life everywhere, all levels, all dimensions, everything, the entire focus of, you might say, Great Spirit. All life everywhere within the waveform universe, and maybe even outside the waveform universe, are focused on Earth and watching the extraordinary thing, because everybody knows and senses that this amazing, extraordinary thing that's happening on Earth is going to affect all life everywhere. We just know it. And this is what I meant by this little seed that God buried down in there. He created a situation where this was the only choice. It was the only one. There wasn't any other choice. It was the only one. And so the experiment was tried. It came from the Lucifer rebellion, because it came from technology onto a Lucifer rebellion planet Earth. And now the thing seems to be coming up with the answer for both sides. So who am I to say? I don't know. But what appears to be happening now is that God appears to be entering into the situation. And God, I mean us on the other side of the experiment, the whole experiment outside of the waveform universe, seems to be interacting directly. Things are occurring here that just really are not natural. The grid that's around the Earth that was finally completed in 1989, that grid, which again is based on a dodecahedron, but far more integrated. It's a stellated dodecahedron, but there's much finer aspects to it, reflects the consciousness of that life form directly. And Christ consciousness usually evolves over a long period of time. In other words, it goes into one stage of unity consciousness, but there's many levels that continue up. There's stages of growth that continue up even from there. And you can always tell where it's at just by looking at the grid. So if you want to, what they're not really watching, the individual human so much as they're watching this geometrical image around the Earth. And it usually makes maybe a change every, well, maybe 1,000 years, or maybe every 10,000 years, or something like that. We're making changes in this thing hourly, and sometimes even sooner. And so, whether you know it or believe it or not, we are in the midst of an extraordinary experiment here that all life is focused on. And I don't think that has ever occurred before either, though maybe it has. I don't believe that Melchizedek has any conscious memory of the entire waveform universe focusing its attention on a single point. And though it's not over with yet, and there's a lot going on, the very thing that would have normally worked didn't work. And so because we're in this unique flipped around situation, the Syrians and those that are working with this have opened up the whole thing, hoping that as we keep growing, we will all all those that are connected to another way of being, where we love one another, that love will take over and will start guiding the events in the world. And the more the dark resists, the faster we would go. Okay, he's got a question over there. Maybe you got the answer.
We had this somewhat heated discussion the other day about technology and its dangers and the possible value during the transition period and its addicting nature and all of that. And here we have a case where very sophisticated technology is being used in an interventionary manner to assist revolution instead of to addict us further. Now, it could be argued that it's simply extraordinary and that within a duality-based universe, this kind of intervention is okay to kind of get ourselves out of the problem. But from the way you're describing it, it seems that races not even involved with the Lucifer Rebellion are interested because of the speed of evolution that it's facilitating. And so the question is, this is a question, is, to me that seems to validate the idea that if technology is approached in a balanced way, where the heart is used just as much as the mind, at least in this transition period, it might be appropriate in some forms.
Well, like I was trying to say in the beginning, I'm not going to say that doing it is wrong. It's just personally, my own personal thing, I've chosen to go in a totally non-technical possibility way. There is an integration taking place, it appears, between the Luciferian technical side and the non-technical other aspect side. It appears to be that it is the Lucifer Rebellion and it is the technology of that which seems to be triggering this situation. And it is beyond anybody here or anyone anywhere. Everybody has to, I think the most important thing in all of this, and this is the real crux of it, is that a lot of the technology, like what the Grace had, there was no heart. There was no feelings or emotions. But and what you're implying here is that if technology could be used with a heart, with love, that there may be a way. And the Syrians appear to be demonstrating that. I mean, the Syrians are our father. We are deeply embedded in the Lucifer Rebellion. I mean, I'm sure Christians wouldn't even want to consider that. People who are, like born again Christians and things, that we could possibly be part of Lucifer. But we are in here. And I'm not trying to stop. Personally, I don't want to stop either one. I want to find this way between all of it in the whole thing. That there's got to be some kind of path that can satisfy the needs of those that have taken that path and those that have not. And more than anything, I'm just watching. I am teaching the merkaba stuff because that was one of my instructions on how to do this. Because right now we're way out of balance, if you want to look at it that way. You have almost 100% of the people here totally involved in the Lucifer thing, and there's nobody balancing out the other side. We only have about less than 8,000 people that have taken the path of non-technological aspect, which we call the Ascended Masters. And I really don't know what the answer is. I don't know where it's going to lie. I'm just like a reporter here, just saying, this is what's going on. This is what I see, and I'm trying to be a reporter with heart, hoping that there will be some kind of way that we can all come out of this in a good way. And I really don't think that, these people that are prophesizing right now, I don't think there's anybody that knows where we're going. I don't think anybody at any level at all, except for God himself or herself, knows where this is taking us. But wherever it's taking us, we're getting there real quick. We're not going to have to wait a long time on this one, because this one is like, right now, tens of thousands of years are going by every day on Earth, though we don't know it. And it's really going fast.
There's a couple of us that are leaving tonight, so we'd like
Yeah, they're leaving at 7. You got to leave at 7?
No, like close to 8.
Well, maybe I should try to get all the informational levels in as much as possible. Stuff that's really important. And then after that, well, if there's time left, we can do that. We now think, see, originally, when they set up the grid to just put us back onto the orbit again, their intention was just to put us back from the 3rd to the 4th dimension. And that is all that we would do. And that was all it was planned to do, and it was all it was supposed to do. But because of this speeded up thing, that evolutionary pattern that was set in there, that threw this whole thing out, and we're going so fast, then it looked like, at one point it looked like, well, we're going to go further than that. And then it looked like, holy cow, we're going to go up to the 5th dimension. And everybody's going, wow, 5th dimension, man, incredible. And then it looked like we were going to go into the 6th dimension, and then the 7th, and then the 8th, and then the 9th, and the 10th, and the 11th, and the 12th. And everybody's mouth is dropping further and further and further in all of this. And then finally, just recently, I was given the instructions on how to create the group merkaba that would extend us beyond the Great Wall. And part of the human consciousness of the Ascended Masters made it over the wall using this information. Part of our consciousness went through the entire dimensional level and over into the next octave. Which is just, forget it, you can't even talk about it. It's just so outrageous. And now it's looking like we're all gone.
We've been resisting. Now we're finding out that because of that we can go out further and faster than ever possible.
Well, on a more balanced way, it's really, if you have to give thanks, it's thanks to both the Dark and the White Brotherhood for their dance that they have. Because see, before Lucifer and before Jesus, there was no dance in the same way. There was a homogeneous structure. And when God polarized the two and made one on one side and one on the other side, he created a dance. And it's not a person or anything that did this. It is the very creation of the dance by God that has created this extraordinary situation that is now taking what has always been a very slow process into something that is super accelerated. Now, that not just because it's super accelerated doesn't mean that it's positive or negative, that it's good or that it's bad. It's all we can say is that it's different, definitely different. And the part about it that I'm mostly happy about is that what I can see taking place here is that it's now beyond any of the players. All the players in it, it's beyond Lucifer. It's beyond Jesus. It's beyond them all. It's beyond on all of them. Everybody. Beyond the Melchisedeks. They're all sitting here going, they've lost control. They've lost control. Really. And God has stepped in. And something greater than all the levels of life, all the hierarchy of life, something greater than this created hierarchy has stepped forth and is expressing itself. And from my point of view, I just say, go for it. Yay. Because I'm not concerned about life and death or anything else like that. I'm concerned about healing on cosmic levels, and also the fact that we are now the light is now stronger in controlling the events, where originally it was going to be that the darkness was going to be in control at the time. In other words, the chaotic aspect of ourselves. And I just think that we may find that we may create a situation that we move up into the time when the poles shift, and they will shift, I believe. But we may move into that situation with none of the normal violence that was associated with it. It may be very, very smooth. That has both a positive and negative side too. And that is that it means we might not have any warning. Or very little warning. It just may happen very, very quickly. I don't know for sure. I'll try to explain all that I can possibly explain about what I know about what may happen, but
Are the Syrians still holding the field?
they're still holding the field, yeah, which they never dreamed. On all their calculations and everything else like that, they never dreamed that they would be able to go until 1993. They just didn't. They couldn't even conceive of being able to hold that field that long.
Is it like a holographic field that none of this is really here?
It's a hologram, and they are creating a separate reality on it, and not directly connected to the actual reality outside of it, from which everyone's looking in at.
It's like a holodome.
Yeah, it's like, or the holodeck on Star Trek, that kind of thing. Much more sophisticated than even what they were conceiving of then.
So what happened to the Earth we knew of before the holodeck?
This is the Earth that we still knew of then, and these are our bodies, and they're only interfering with very subtle certain aspects of the Earth in terms of right here on the surface of the Earth. Most of the hologram is extraterrestrial and in space, protecting.
So we can't see the sun exploding.
We can't. That's the main thing. We just aren't ready. But we will have to probably we're going to get to this place where the Earth will get strong enough, and the kinds of things that we were talking about here, where we'll become every day, and we will all be aware that how powerful our thoughts are and our feelings, and that they create the very light worlds that we are in. At which point we may take the responsibility of the expanding sun, and probably experience it from the surface out, more than likely, though I don't know. I can see how that we would experience this. We would accept the experience of this, take on its effects, and go on from there. Because, see, the sun, if consciousness can tune to the heat of the sun, it isn't hot. It's just light, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You can go right into the sun. I've done it, and the sun is not what you think. It's as infinite inside the sun as it is outside, and space is connected inside as well as outside. And the time that it takes to get from Sirius A to our sun is about 90 seconds, going inside the sun.
I don't understand why the ozone layer and the rays of the sun going in the ozone layer, why is it so harmful to us?
Well, because they're still they are allowing the program to continue on as close to possible as what would happen if nothing was going on. And so now it's up to us to try to change the programming back and revert all these patterns back.
So there's no ocean that's polluted out there? It's just a movie?
No, there is a polluted ocean out there, but because, see, the nature of the reality behind the hologram is very similar. It's also one that's a function that is really, remember, it started in nothing. It's just thoughts, it's just feelings, if you want to call it any of those things. It's psychic energy. It's the movement of spirit. It's what created the whole thing in the first place. So even what's behind what we call, if you're thinking like this is a hologram, and then what's behind there is real stuff, it isn't exactly that way. And so...
is that when the when the masters say that the relative existence is an illusion, are they referring to the hologram, or are they referring to the duality?
Most of the people who said that, and when they called it Maya, did not know or even conceive of the situation that we were in now. They were referring to the very reality itself, which is just light. It's illusion. And so what we have just done is create an illusion within an illusion.
Okay, so the illusion behind the created illusion is an illusion.
That's right.
Okay, and that illusion is the duality of the self as separate from itself, the double helix.
Yeah, I think so, from that point of view.
Okay, so when God sent Lucifer and Jesus in two separate directions, it forced people to experience the duality, and it brought all these extraterrestrials and races from all over the world to this one spot to look deep within reality in order to find its way back to God.
Maybe. I mean, I really don't know what God has in mind here. I mean, I can conceive of something that we might just be approaching something that no one has ever seen. That's not in memory banks. That's not in any of the games. It's not in anything. It's not in anything.
You said it was out of Lucifer's control. It was out of Jesus' control. But you didn't name the third one. You didn't say it was out of God's.
No, it's not out of God's control. I don't think so. No, if it's out of God's control, we'd be in trouble. Because that's us on the outside of the system. But us out on the outside of the system, not outside of this system, outside of the other system, outside of the system, all the way outside the entire waveform universe and all dimensional levels, outside all the entire created infinite structure, outside of all of it. In other words, the guy watching the TV when you're watching that pattern up there, outside of that whole thing, that aspect appears to be what is interfering directly, and that's the part that it may be that we, before we created this whole thing, planted this little seed and started the whole pattern, and then at the right time, we on the other side put in the two components of the positive and negative aspects, knowing that eventually that would come down and find this little thing and do this little thing. But what the intent is beyond that, on the other side, where we sat before we came in, I can't second guess that. I don't know. I mean, I just work here. I don't. I don't have any control on those levels over there. I mean, because it is me from my point of view, but I have surrendered that to that aspect of me, and I'm here to experience what it is that I place myself into, and so. And we're all equal in this way. I just happen to have my memory at the moment, but you're all going to have your memory pretty soon too, if you don't already getting it. And at which point we all go back to one place back there. We're all the same. We're just reflections of each other. We're like mirrors. But the image that was given to me to give to you is that that it is very similar, at least the image is very similar to someone who is in a canoe going down a river in a jungle, where you are got this smooth, wide river with blue skies and dense jungle on either side, and it's beautiful. And you're just rowing gently down there, just kind of humming a little song. Row, row, row your boat. Gently down the stream. Life is but a dream. And you can look into your past as far back as you can till the last bend. So you can examine pretty well. In other words, you could see a certain distance back that you could remember real well. But when it goes around the bend, you can't see anymore. And so you could look in the back at so far, but then you can't see very far back, and you can't see as the bends get further and further and further back down that river, the less and less and less can you remember where you were, because we're pretty much a centralized consciousness. And you can see ahead into the future up until the next bend, and then you can't see around that bend, so you don't have any idea what's coming. You can kind of tell what's coming in your future a little ways, but that's about it. So we have this short little thing. And you're just going down there having a good old time. Life is great. Your higher self is kind of like a big bird flying up over the top of your canoe. You might say like an eagle flying up there, coasting along. From that fourth dimensional point of view, if you want to see the third dimension as the surface of the earth and the fourth dimension is this higher view, that aspect of yourself can see a lot further than you can. It can look back along the river and see all the bends really precisely of your past for a long, long, long ways. It does have a limit. Higher self does have a limit, just like you do, but it's expanded like crazy, and it can see much further. And it can see ahead in your future a long ways, but it also has a limit. There are higher selves to higher selves to higher selves to higher selves until you get to God. And so your higher self flying up here can see real well, and you're down there just floating along, and the higher self comes to you, the bird comes to you and says, you need to get out of your canoe, go over to the side over here, and walk your canoe through the forest. And you're going, walk my canoe through the forest? Are you crazy? This thing weighs about 200 pounds. You're thinking to yourself all these thoughts, that's stupid and dumb and everything else like that. But you do it. Reluctantly, you go over to the edge and you haul this canoe through the forest and over these logs and drag it here and all the way through this thing, which is called following your higher self. And you go down there about 2 miles. When you look back to where right behind the bend that you couldn't see, you look up and you see this 500 or 600 foot waterfall coming straight down. And you realize, wow, if I hadn't have done that, I would be mashed potatoes on the rocks down there. And so often, in my own experience, this is what kept happening over and over and over. A higher self would tell me to do something, and I couldn't understand why I was doing it at the time. But then after I did it, and after I saw the reality unfold, then the wisdom of of why I did what I did would usually take place. Sometimes I could understand, but most of the time I couldn't. And so that's kind of what the relationship is like in a way, except it's really you up there flying as well as down there at the same time. And the actual connection with higher self has very subtle aspects which I'm not real good at teaching and trying to understand right now. And what has to do with things like self-esteem and being able to believe in yourself, truthfulness, trusting. Very subtle aspects that I'm trying to identify and trying to understand so that I can communicate, and it's not one of my great communication skills. You have to believe in yourself here on earth, and that you are a divine being, that you are connected to God and have purpose and meaning in all of this world, that you're not just an accident, and that you're not important or anything else like this. We were talking about loving yourself. These kinds of things are all components that have to come together before the connection with higher self can truly take place. And this is, like I'm trying to say, this is what I'm trying to understand so that I can not only put it into words, but to bring these components together in someone that's before me, beside myself. It just happened with me. I mean, it just appeared to just happen. I didn't seem to do anything to make it happen. And so some people have no problems with this, and others do. And again, this is what I'm studying, what this is about. I think there's people here that probably know more than me about this. What I might do right now is describe a technique that was given to me in terms of how to make this connection, and then I might ask someone else to come up here in a little bit and talk about this, so maybe they can help you. But I think I'll give this technique first. The technique that I was given is just a technique. There's other ones, there's other ways. But this is more or less the way I did it. And it has to do with, first of all, you would get a pencil and paper. In fact, you need one right now to write this down, to write down what I'm about to say. You can try this, and it does seem to work for certain people, and I think what it is, it works for the people that are ready. If you're not ready, and it may not work right away. First thing is that you would go into the Christ consciousness. First of all, before you ever even begin, you are to write down on this piece of paper now a question. Excuse me. Write down a question to your higher self. We're talking about like a polarity here now, as though you were two-ness, though it's really oneness. Okay, but in the beginning, it is a two-ness, and so you write down on this paper a question that you're going to ask to yourself when you make this connection with yourself. And the question would be something along this line. I'm not going to tell you exactly. You need to write it down in your own words. And that is, you're going to ask your own self what it is you can do that would be an act, a physical act you can do in this world that would, first of all, be something that would be spiritually healthy for you, that would be something that would be good for your spiritual evolution. And second of all, by the very act of doing this thing, would demonstrate to you or to prove to your heart that you have made connection with your higher self. You're testing higher self. You're asking it to give you something to test. Okay? So you write this question down of how you want to put it in your own words. And you put it on a piece of paper, and you put the pencil right down on the floor or wherever you're on your table, where you are when you're going to do the meditation. And then you sit down and you do this meditation. Now I suggest that you wait about 2 weeks so that you do this meditation until you get to the place, to the first 14 breaths, that you get to the place where you're comfortable with it and you're familiar with the exercise, so you don't have to really think about it. You know how to ride the bicycle and you're not having to figure out where everything is, and you know how to do it, the mechanics of it. And then, when you figure you're ready, you go in, you sit down, and get somewhere where you have turned off your telephone, you've locked your doors, no one's going to interfere with you, and all these kinds of things, because those kinds of things could come at the wrong moment for you. Just isolate yourself a little bit one time when you're ready. And begin the breathing and go until you get to the place of the 14th breath. Well, we need air in this place. And when I start yawning like this, I know that it's my little barometer. Or whatever it is, I know where there's no oxygen. You get to this place where you're at the 14th breath, and then get real relaxed, follow your breath, and follow your breath really, really deeply. Go deep, deep, deep into the stillness of who you are. And you just go deep, deep, deep within your beingness to the place where it's very, very still. And you've got this flow moving through you. You don't have to think. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to image anything. You don't have to be anything. You just are. And if you stay long enough in there, you won't even be aware of your body or anything. You'll just be a little spirit. And what's happening is you're breathing fourth dimensionally. And when you get that still in that breathing, you're going to raise your consciousness very slowly to a very high level of fourth dimension. Well, not high compared to what's possible, but higher compared to where you are now. You'll be breathing. You'll be raising your frequency to a fourth dimensional frequency, which will make it very easy from that place to connect with higher self. It would be a lot. You could do it in a safe way, or a furs meat market or something, but it would be a little harder there than it would be in this real quiet place. And so once you get there and you stay there for a while and you feel like it's right and you feel like you've reached and your heart is open as much as you can, then with as much sincerity as you can, ask your higher self to come down to you, to come into your presence at where you are so that you can feel this higher aspect of yourself, either in or around you. You invoke it. You ask it to come in. Now the next thing that happens, assuming you are ready, is something that I can't say what will be, because it could be almost anything. Higher self can come into you or come to you, and that experience could be almost anything at all. It's as limited as your imagination. And it's probably tied to something that you have determined a long time ago already. Higher self may come in, and when it comes in, and you could experience it in just about any conceivable way. For me, it was two spheres of light. For my wife, it was these 10-foot tall angels. I feel better now. I think I'll just hold this. It might make another one. That's my mantra for a long time. Orange, orange, orange. Sun-kissed.
You want 23.
So, it might be, like I said, for me it was two spheres of light, and for my wife it's these big angels. You might not be visual. It may just come into you you might just feel a presence come in, and you know. It might just be a knowing. You might hear something, a voice may come in and start talking to you. Or almost anything can happen. It just may be lights, it may be anything, it may be nothing at all. And there's just this feeling that comes in that has meaning to you. It may be that you're sitting here and your hand picks up the pencil and just starts writing and you're wondering what's going on because it's just automatically doing it. It could be almost anything at all. But the important part of this, what I'm trying to say here is that once you get, assuming that you get a communication of some sort, which again could take any kind of form imaginable, but once you get the meaning of what it means, you get it, whatever it is. A series of geometrical forms flashes across you and you go, oh, okay, I understand. And you get the message. The next thing to do is to take all of your fingers, all 10 fingers, assuming you're down low on the ground, and put them on the ground. Take your 10 fingers like this. If you're sitting down on the ground, and put them down like this. This is the best thing if you're low to the ground. What this will do is ground you, literally, and it'll make you come out of the meditation extremely rapid. You can just open your eyes and be here. I don't know, have you ever done this? You can be really deep. You could be in for an hour, and you touch your fingers to the ground, and you can just open your eyes instantly, and you're there. It's real similar to, have you ever been driving a car and you start getting really sleepy? And you know how you start getting sleepy and sleepy, and you can't stop? And you just can't stop? You know how to stop that? Take your finger and touch, you know, what's that bump called? Right underneath the medulla, take your finger and make a little pressure. You'll go boing, and you'll be wide awake. It doesn't matter. It's the pressure on that point. This one. Well, that's getting close because you're doing the same thing. There's a place there. If you just press on it, you'll instantly wake up. And as long as you got your finger there, you're going to drive wide awake. You take it away, and after about 20 minutes, you start getting sleepy again. You got to pick yourself. But it's the same kind of thing. You put your hands down, and it'll just bring you right back. Now, getting back fast is important because I'll explain in a moment. You got this message. As soon as you get your message, you just say thank you, goodbye, and put your hands down, come right out, and without thinking about the message or pondering it or anything else, pick up your pen and write down the message and get the whole message onto the paper. Don't discuss it with yourself. Don't think about any of the words. Just get the whole thing on there and put the last period on there. It's very important that in the initial stages you do this as fast as possible. It's almost critical. The reason is because the biggest problem initially with communication, interdimensional communication, is with the lower dimensional level aspect. Here's the communication, and then changes it. Because the ego gets in there and says, no, I'm not going to do that. And it just changes something, and then by the time you get down, you get something else. And so this is real important that you get it on there as fast as possible. Get it written down so you can't change it. And so you get it on there, and then, after you get it down, then you can pick it up and read it. Then you can think about it all you want. The first thing I've got to say, and this is almost certainly will not occur. The likelihood of it is just about zero, but I must say it because there is a slim chance. If the message tells you to do something that you believe is morally wrong, you did not get higher self. Take the message, burn it, and wait a while, like a month or something, and meditate deeper, because you didn't get higher self. I don't know what happened. It's your ego. It's something else. Because your higher self is you, and is a very pure aspect of you, and it's not going to do anything like that. It won't. It just simply won't. And not even to test you or anything else. It's not going to do that. Definitely early stages. And so, but that, assuming that did not happen, you just got this message. Okay, you read the message. It's about the 71st one, there's the one I want. That's not it. You do it. And I've been following this for a really long time, and though there's different opinions on this, it has served me very well in this way. This is my way of doing it. Now you may have a slightly different way of working with your higher self, and that's okay. I'm not saying that the way that I'm telling you is the only way. There's lots of ways, lots and lots of ways of working with this energy. Now, the higher self may tell you to do something like, I don't know. Well, it's like, let me think of one. This disc that you see sitting here? The higher self told me, okay, it's time for you to go study sound. And I had to study sound relative to the chakras. And I said, what do I do? They said, go for a walk in the forest. Okay, what's going for a walk in the forest got to do with studying sound, So I go for a walk in the forest. And I walk in the forest, and I walk for about 2 or 3 miles, just walk and wonder why the heck I'm walking in this forest. And I walk up to a tree, and out in the middle of nowhere, this disc and another one about that big are leaned up against a tree. Sitting there. And I go, wonder what these are. And I took them home, and I found that by striking this thing, and the way the sound, which is a counter-rotating field going this way, and a counter-rotating field going this way, that I was able to explore how counter-rotating field sounds affect chakras. And I studied it for a long, long, long time. I ended up putting a pulley on this thing, and was able to raise it and put it at different chakras and strike it. And it was a great. I learned a whole lot. It was a real important lesson for me. The one that I have used several times. They've given me certain ones to say, and I don't really know why I'm supposed to. There's so many other ones, but I keep using the ones they told me to say, so I kind of go along by what they tell me to do. The other one was this guy from Japan who has a form of automatic writing. He goes into a trance and his automatic writing comes out. But the writing itself, when you look at it, is not a language that's on this planet. So it looks like something he made up. It doesn't exist on anywhere. But he can read it. And he knows it's a language. Nobody else can read it, but he can read it. And he reads it, and it tells him what to do, and where to go, and what to do in his world, in his life. What his guidance, it tells him his direction. And in one of these things, I got to know this person, that's why I know. In one of these things, it told him to go to Canada, to Vancouver, Canada, to a very specific street corner on a certain day at a certain time and stand there. This guy was very dedicated. He bought a ticket from Japan, flew to Canada, went to the street corner, and stood there and waited. In the meantime, I had done a real similar thing. The angels had given me an address. They had given me an address, which was 111-444 4th Avenue in Vancouver, and told me to go there. And I did go there, and they said that I would meet a man, David Livingstone, which I did, which I think I told that story in the other videos. And I did go there, and I ended up in the school, which was called Alpha and Omega Order of Melchizedek. And while I was at this school, which was a school to teach or learn how to convert negative energy into positive energy on a planetary level, one of my trainings were that David let me witness this thing. And David's sitting there and he says, oh, this guy is down on such and such street now. He's there. He's just sitting there and he says, he's there now. So he tells this other person to go down and get him. So this guy drives down, goes up to the street, and here's this little Japanese guy sitting there that had been told to stand there. And he goes up to him and he says, would you come with me? And he goes, okay. And he gets in the car and he takes him over to where I was on this place over there and brings him up into this room. And David comes into him and says, why are you here? What led you here? And he could speak English. And he's, sort of. And he said that his writing told him to come here, or to come to that place. And David says, can I see your writing? And so he showed it to him. David looks at it. Okay. And he says, would you wait here just a minute? I'll be back in a minute. And so David leaves. So I wait here with this guy. And a little while later, this young woman comes in. There was over 400 people in this group, so it was, I didn't even know everybody in the group. This woman comes in, and she puts an easel up like this, only it has a thing, a piece of cloth over the top of it, sets it down, and walks out. And we wait around for a little while, and pretty soon David comes in with 4 other people who come in and stand there quietly. 2 were on either side of the easel. I was in here, David was here, and this little Japanese guy was right here. And David, I don't remember exactly the conversation at this point. David said something to him, something I don't remember, and then he lifted the cloth off, and on there was this guy's writing all over it, and it said something to him like, I mean, I can't read it, but whatever it was, his smile went about that big. It said something to him, you are now home, or something like this, and da-da-da, like that. And come to find out, the other 4 people that were sitting there, who were all different nationalities from 4 different countries from around the world, also had the same exact writing, the same exact situation in their life. And so they were the ones that wrote that on the board to him. And at which point, he just went ecstatic. I mean, I can't tell you whether the guy just started crying and bawling and everything else like that. I mean, he was like, he had met 4 more people that were from him, that were his, from him. And this was like a very, very powerful experience for him. And it was a training for me to watch this took place. I had a lot of trainings like this, but this was one of them. And so, starting all the way back from when he was just getting that transmission, the writing that said, go to Canada, stand on a street corner a certain day. If you got a transmission that said, go to Japan, stand on there at a certain day at a certain time, would you have the courage to do it? This is what you're being asked. It became loud and clear. What if it came quiet and foggy? Well, this is really what it comes down to. If you've got the guts to do this stuff, it takes a lot, and maybe you don't right now. Maybe you're not really ready, and in which case you probably won't make connection with higher self.
Well, we all made it here.
Yeah, you got a guidance on one level for sure to get this far. Well, all I'm saying is if you don't make it right now, hang in there, because you will. You definitely will. But you will be faced with this thing of having to somewhat give up your life and allow something greater to enter in. And what I mean is your mundane life, which may be, whatever you're doing right now may, another way to say it, whatever you're doing right now may change dramatically after that. And your life may change incredibly. And so I've had this, so many.
I think Gloria's point is really beautiful. I'd love to see a show of hands about how many people feel like they either gave up something or really sort of went against the grain or something.
Well, okay, let me ask this question. How many people here right now feel that you're already connected with your higher self? All right. Well, you see, I've asked this question before in other classes, And I usually only get maybe 5 to 10 people. So this is a very different. This is a much higher level class. This is a lot of people.
Just in addition, some of the information that's coming in is to shift the word from self to selves.
Selves?
Connection to higher selves.
Well, okay. In terms of what you're just saying there, from self to selves, like I said, there's a higher self to a higher self to a higher self. What this is a process. It's an ongoing process. This is what I've discovered. What I found in the first part is that higher self, single, came in, these two spheres, and I began to follow this. And I followed it by writing it down. I had a journal where I wrote down everything they said for years and years and years. And then at one point, I discovered that there was a change occurring in me, and higher self began to come to me less and less and less. And I didn't see it, or see them, or myself, however you want to say it, as often. And then about a year ago, there was a third higher self, third angel, which was a gold angel or a gold sphere, that was sometimes there and was sometimes not there, but usually not. When I asked what these other two entities were, one said it was the spirit of the earth and the other the spirit of the sun, and that they were not, but that they were me. There was a poem that came out at one point right after that I am the earth, I am the sun, and yet I'm really neither one. And about a year ago, I started to do a workshop in the San Juan Islands, I think it was, and the gold sphere came in, and it just came over me, and just came down into me. And I knew at that moment that something had changed. I wasn't quite sure exactly what had happened, because I was in the middle of the workshop, and I was, in my own little self going, I know something's different here. And since then, I've discovered that that all I can call it is a knowingness has come over me. There's no more a polarity or asking a question and receiving an answer. It's not even, there's not even an internal asking of a question anymore. It's just, I just simply know that what I'm doing is exactly right. Without I can't explain it exactly. It's just there's just this knowing that comes over, and I can see that this whole thing is just a process. It's more to it. So what's now happened, I believe, another way of interpreting this is that the higher self that I had been communicating with has come in, and that the level that extends out into the higher selves, like she's trying to say, has been opened. And so now it is a different form of higher level communication that doesn't require the polarity aspect of what was before. And I assume that at some point, if that's true, then if there are selves to selves, then at some point something else will come in, and an even greater level will extend into myself. Though I can't at this moment imagine what that is. And when that came in, yeah, there was. It felt very much like a light extended around me. My sensation of breathing changed, and I don't know. I felt different. I felt more self-assured, which I thought I was, but I even felt more so than ever before, though not instantly over a period of time. It isn't like some kind of real powerful sensation, but it was a very, very clear thing that took place.
There are voices that people hear and automatic writing that people participate in that sometimes originates with entities that are not people's higher selves.
Absolutely.
Could you speak to the different feelings that people would experience in their heart chakra or other centers based on the source of the information and the degree to which people are shielded from that sort of thing in the state that you are suggesting people get into before they attempt this?
This is the key to, or you see, the merkaba and the Christ sphere breathing that's at the core inside of it is since the merkaba is the pattern that created the universe. When we created this universe on this pattern, we used the pattern to step into the experience, or the merkaba to get into it, and it's also the doorway to get out of it. It is also, we set this up in such a way that the merkaba is also the protection field unparalleled. Once you're in your merkaba, or even in the Christ consciousness breathing, it's more than a law. I don't know how to say this. The outside influences, no matter how great or how small, cannot influence you unless you allow them to. And so the purpose of waiting until you get into the breathing in the sphere, the golden sphere of light, is that your intention then is that only your higher self, in other words, you're invoking your higher self to come in, no other. And no other will or can. The only exception would be is if that person is running some kind of program in them saying that there's got some kind of low-level program going on and saying, only my higher self and maybe Joe over here, or something like that. Because it's going to respond to that. But so you've got to be very, very clear and say, only my higher self, I'm invoking only that, nothing else. And as long as you do that, you won't get anything else. Now, without this golden sphere, if you're just sitting down and doing meditation, and you're asking for that, you might get just about anything, especially with automatic writing or things like this. It could be, it might be benevolent to you, and it might not. That's amounting to channeling, and you'll know because you'll feel this feeling come in if you're sensitive in the back of your head. Will come in and will not and. Something actually enters into you, and it is not. It's not you. It's something else. Though it is you ultimately. It's not what you're attempting to do. But if you're in that sphere, you don't have to have any fear or worries. You won't be harmed, and you won't be intruded upon. Not that they might not try. An outside influence may try, but it won't. It won't be able to reach through. It just won't. And once you hit the merkaba field, then the protection is just absolute. I mean, there's just nothing. There's no way. There's nothing. But I don't think that you're going to have any problems with reaching higher self in this way. I anticipate that, and I don't think there will be one for lots of reasons. Because of the situation that's developed around the earth, because of the unique cooperation between the dark and the light brotherhoods, and because of the timing that we're at right now and everything else, all of this should move very easily, and I don't really anticipate any kind of problems at all. Don't be afraid. Okay, where's the mic?
It seems, is that son?
Yeah.
It seems that this knowingness is about not being afraid of becoming God, because the whole Lucifer rebellion was about breaking the laws of thinking that there's something higher than God and then causing a separation. And the Christ consciousness is about being the Son of God or some aspect of God and then struggling to get back to God. But everything that's happening now of acceleration and all that is going into that state like of knowingness where it's really natural to be God, to be God, not one person God over anybody else, but not putting God above or below or putting anything else above or below. So it's like that, it seems like that oneness, that experience of oneness where there's not even a separation between a higher and a lower self is that experience. And we all just have to get used to not being afraid of that or thinking that there's something wrong with that.
I was going to say the same. Because when you say, I want to talk to my higher self, you're creating a duality. And we know that duality is.
But see, I'm assuming that most of you are already here, but if there's someone that's already in duality, it offers a starting point for a process.
But you have to lead them towards the light, and the light is the truth. You're the teacher.
No, I hear what you're saying. This is just a technique, like I said. There are other ways of thinking about this and other ways to approach this. It's not the only way. And like I have said already, this is one of the weaker areas that I am able to communicate in. This, however, this is what I'm really offering is more or less the process that I went through. This is what happened to me. And I began to follow this, and what I'm seeing is that was the very first thing the angel said, the very first thing that came in. I saw something separate from me, and it looked at me and said, "We are not separate from you. We are you." And I didn't understand it. And so I had to go through an understanding process of how that could be, how something outside of myself could be actually me. And it took many years of understanding, and I'm still getting more and more understanding through this very process, and different levels of what I call communication within myself. And so now it's to a whole different place, and I have a feeling that is only a step along the way, or interpretation of what's possible, or fusion within oneself to going across the spectrum of the dimensional levels. And but there's lots of other ways of perceiving that, and I honor any that brings unity and brings people into oneness. I've studied enough of the other religions to know and understand what you're saying, but that isn't what happened to me. And so I have to come from experience, and that's what I'm coming from. Let me just say one more thing. The saying about the higher self. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of information here, and for those of you who don't quite understand, try to communicate with other people and get other ideas about it. But it is very, very important, because as we move into the kinds of rapid changes that we're about to go into, you've got to be able to have confidence in yourself, to believe in yourself and know that you can get the information from within yourself and not go desperately looking outside, because you're not going to be able to get it outside. It's going to have to come from within here. And so only it's once you have that inner guidance, then the higher self will say, okay, now you're ready to use the merkaba. Because until you get that, you're not really ready to use the merkaba. We have two last areas to cover that I can think of. And the first one has to do with healing, and the last one has to do with the actual transition across to the other dimensional levels, and some aspects that you need to know about that. There's some very important things you need to know about that transition over into the other dimensional levels. And we've got about an hour and a half, so we're going to go for it. Should do it. Okay, this first subject of healing. I mentioned already what my feelings were on, as far as technique goes, that we use technique, I think, more as a vehicle of communication between each other to communicate, but that that healing is it has to do with love, and that if you're healing yourself, that it's a matter of being centered and being in love with yourself. And if you are to assist in someone else healing themselves, that it's love that you're giving to that person that they're feeling that's allowing them to heal themselves. And any technique that we use is really secondary and of very little importance other than that. It's kind of the same thing that I'm saying about the workshop. You can talk about technique, which is the merkaba, which is perhaps important for what we're doing, but the merkaba won't work without the love. And it's a similar kind of thing with my healing. These are my concepts on healing, okay? I'm not saying this is the end final word on healing in the universe. This is I'm just giving you my ideas that I've learned over a long time. So I'll tell you, with that in mind, I'll tell you how it all kind of started for me. And going way back 20-something years ago, my wife and I were, before the angels had come in or anything else, we were trying to understand ourselves and what the whole thing was all about. And we were using the technique of hypnosis to do this with. And we were learning a lot of things. I mean, my wife was learning how to lift. We were lifting out of our bodies and flying around the rooms and having a good old time and thinking this is the most incredible thing we'd ever learned. And I mean, she was found out we should go down to the library and go in and read books and come back and those kinds of things, astral projection type stuff. And we started learning about some of the other dimensional levels by actually going there and looking around, this kind of thing. One day I left a pan, a cast iron pan, sitting on the stove. I didn't leave it there. I purposely put it there. I don't know if you ever cook in cast iron pans. Not too many people do these days, but I do. And you dry them off so they don't rust by heating them up. And the thing is, I did it and I forgot it was there, and I went outside. And it probably went through the smoking one and everything else like that, because it was like an hour later I came back. And I remember I was over at one end of the room, and my wife came in and went over and just picked up this pan, which was orange, and picked it up in her left hand and moved it about that far before she realized that it registered that the pan was melting her hand. She just dropped this thing, and I went over to her, and I looked at her hand, and it was just like rapidly going through. It was, she had really done something pretty intense to her hand. And I remember sitting there. At first, I felt helpless, and then I remembered this connection, this new opening that we'd had with hypnosis, and this is all taking place in about 30 seconds or something. I'm sitting there going like that, and just something took over, and I just knew, and I put her into a trance, which we'd already worked that stuff out, so it was just like that. It didn't have to go through a lot, and I just told her, though I don't know if I really believed it at the moment, because I don't think I really did, but the words that came out of my mouth to her were, your hand is healing itself, and it's going to go right back to normal right now. And she had her eyes closed, so she didn't even see this. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I watched her hand before my eyes go back to normal in about maybe a minute or less. Just totally back to normal, like nothing had happened at all. And I was changed forever in that moment. I suddenly got something very deep, that the body is just light, and that there's some kind of connection between what you think and what you feel. And I experimented on that with her a whole lot later, and time again, I was verified that it was really true, that I could, that when the mind believes something, the reality followed right behind. When the mind really believed it. In hypnosis, you can get into really believing things at a very deep level, and it was amazing. It really I mean, it really worked. Now there's another thing I need to say about it, which is very, very, very important. You have the right to heal yourself, and we have the right to heal our children. But we don't have the right to heal someone else. We don't have any right. It's illegal. It's against the law. You can't do it. In order to heal someone else, you have to get permission. And for me, that means I have to get permission from the person, number one, and once they say yes, then I have to what I do is I bring in their higher self, which is easy to do once you know that process, and I get permission from their higher self to make sure that this is for the greater good of that person, because you cannot determine that the healing of that person at this time is in the greatest good of that person. It may mean maybe 2 weeks from now it might be, but at this moment it may not be. There's no way to determine that from where we sit. And so you've got to get permission to shoot a beam of light across the room to heal someone, or do something of this kind of psychic nature. It's a no-no. You can't do this, even though it may seem like it's a good thing, because you just don't know what is needed for that person. If I did get permission to heal that person, what I do, and maybe has nothing to do with what you do, I get their pranic flow moving first. I know it'll only go for a couple of days, but you can initiate someone else's flow moving just by seeing their field and breathing and timing your breathing to their fields and getting their pranic flow going. In many cases, in many things, that'll solve the problem with at least a lot of certain things, unless they're real deep things. But I always do that first, and then I bring in their higher self again, and I say, okay, what do you want me to do now? And I just listen. I don't go thinking in terms of, like a doctor, in terms of all the things I know about what is best or what for those conditions or stuff, though I may be put in that position. But I just simply ask what it is that would help this person. And I've discovered that the higher selves of people sometimes give very unusual things. Things that you wouldn't consider healing, per se. I mean, many times it is things like herbs or crystals or something of this nature, some physical thing, but a lot of times it's other kinds of things. For example, which I'm not going to have time to talk about this one, but I sometimes do, and it's one where it was a dream that actually was the healing process for this person. I had this dream about this person, and by giving the dream to the person, which was the healing thing, it solved the problem with the person. And sometimes it may be things associated with color and things like this, where you give them a certain color to wear, or there's a lot of, I don't know, it could be anything. It could be things that you may not normally attribute to healing, but if you just listen real carefully, just listen, just get out of the way and listen, their higher self knows exactly what they need. And just do it. And you can see amazing results sometimes with very, very little things. Maybe it's just handing them a book. Who knows? Whatever it is, I can't really tell. But you got to just follow your heart on that. There are techniques that I've learned. That if the higher self says that they need energy in one way or another, besides getting their own flow going, I may give them my own energy and project through my hands by putting my hands on them and projecting. What I do is I get my flow going and bring my flow from the. You have this inner sphere here, and you have that outer one. The inner one is where your super concentrated energy, prana, is, and so I may bring prana out from there and down. I've learned things like you don't bring things through you, I learned that one the hard way. It's better to, I got it real good on these prana flows. I don't even let them back up into me anymore to make sure that it's only a one-way flow. I remember one time my wife had hay fever. She'd had it for about 20 years since she was a kid. And when we were kind of learning on all this stuff, it's toward the beginning stages, she said, "Hey, let's get rid of this hay fever." And I said, "Okay." And I got a hold of it. I felt where it was, and I pulled it into my hand and up through here and out the top of my head. That seemed like the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do. Because 15 minutes later, my wife was completely healed, and she's never had it since. Nothing, totally, not a drop, nothing. 15 minutes later, I got it. And then I never had hay fever my whole life. And my eyes started running, my nose started running, my son was going, "What is this?" You know. And I just got it. And I mean, I got it bad. And I had it so bad, I was going through 2 and 3 boxes of Kleenex a day. And I didn't know how to get rid of it. I mean, this was a new experience. I pulled something in that I didn't know how to get out of me now. And so I remember there was one point, it went for 6 months, and I couldn't figure out how to get rid of it. And my life was ruined. I couldn't even work. I couldn't do anything. I was crying and all stuff all the time. And so I finally went to the angels and I said, "You got to help me on this one. I can't figure it out." And they said, "Okay." And they gave me a herbal cure, which really works, and it's worked on lots of other people. I know how to knock out hay fever now, or most other allergies. It's pretty easy, actually. And all right.
And so
All you do is take 3 days of your life aside, and you kick everybody out because nobody's going to want to be near you. Because this is a blood purifier, and all the heavy metals and all the toxins and everything will come out of your body in every conceivable way, from your skin to your mouth to your eyes to everything. It's all going to come out. And it's going to come out fast, so you'll get very weak. I've learned since then that this is a Navajo cure, which they say will cure anything. And I did watch a woman afterwards who had also got the cure from someone else who had cancer throughout her body. They gave her less than 30 days to live, and she completely knocked the cancer out of her body, and that was about 7 years ago. She's fine now. And I mean, she had it in her blood, and it was throughout everything. It was really going. What it is, it's something called chaparral. And there's a technique where you take chaparral, you take 6 cups of water, and you take a heaping tablespoon of cut licorice and put it into the water cold, and bring the water to a simmer, and simmer it for I'd say about 20 minutes or so, maybe even longer, 20-25 minutes, and then turn it off. And then you take a half a cup of chaparral leaf. And the thing is about chaparral is that chaparral is an oil that's in there, and it gets very, very weak after about 6 months. And almost all the chaparral that you buy from herbal, your health food stores, most of those herbs are about a year old. And they're all weak, just about. And the very best way you can do this is to go pick it fresh. It only grows in a couple places in the world, and one of them is in southern New Mexico, southern Arizona. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Jason Winters tea?
No.
It's sort of like cleansing, blood cleansing tea, and the government recently took it off the market. Made them take the chaparral out of it. And because supposedly one person got toxic reaction.
Oh, sure, you could die from taking chaparral. It's not the chaparral, it's the release of the toxins. And so it is the absolute most powerful toxin remover in the planet, just about. So you got to know what you're doing with it. I have to admit this. But chaparral is very, very powerful. Thanks. So you can't buy chaparral anymore? Well, they can't. The entire southern half of the state of New Mexico is covered with it. So as far as the eye can see. So I want to see them cut that down. So anyway, you put a half a cup of chaparral, you turn the fire off and you put a half a cup of chaparral in there and let it steep just like you would tea, but you let it sit for 45 minutes. And then you start drinking this tea over all those 6 cups over the entire day. You just keep drinking it. And you fast during the whole time. What happens is you get very weak, and all these toxins just start pouring out of you. You know, if you are really toxined out, or you have something really heavy, this is just hay fever I'm getting rid of. If you've got something really strong, then you probably would have to ask your higher self about exactly if that amount should be changed or something. I'm not really sure of that. But, and then the next morning, you make another one. You can have all the water you want. You drink lots of water. And you can also take lots of baths to open your pores up and keep letting the stuff come out. And also with sea salt in the baths. And lots of sea salt, like in a bath, maybe 3 cups at least, or more, of sea salt. You couldn't put too much, because it'll get saturated. And take maybe 3-4 hot, pretty relatively warm baths to really open up the pores, to pull all that stuff out. And you'll just get weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. By the end of the 3rd day, you can hardly get out of bed, but it'll just keep coming out. And then when you go back again, it just you feel like somebody just lifted a giant veil off of your head. I didn't even realize how many veils have been, because of the toxins that act kind of like veils. They deaden your senses, and it's very powerful. But that's what they told me to do. I'd never even heard of chaparral before that.
Was it fresh chaparral you used or dry?
I went and got fresh chaparral. They told me to go get fresh chaparral. Chaparral like if you can't buy it, then that's the way it goes. But chaparral is it's only good from all the people that since then I've studied a little bit, and it's only good for about 6 months. And what chaparral is also called creosote. It's creosote they put in bushes. It's actually a form of poison. But so you have to be careful. You wouldn't want to put too much of that in there.
Do you just drink the chaparral the first day of the fast? Do you drink on 7 or 30?
You just drink it all day long.
Every day?
Every day for 3 days. And however, this woman who I talked to after that, I found this other woman who I talked to, and she says, "Oh, that's how I cured myself." And I said, "Well, what did you do?" And she drank large amounts of it for a month. So.
So when you said half a cup,
measure the leaf, half a cup of leaf. Just put it in there pretty loosely and measure it. Okay. So after you've listened to their higher self, you'll find out, and you can do the same thing with yourself. Whatever it is, if you'll just go in and listen to what it is that your higher self will tell you, it will give you the cure. The one thing that my higher aspect told me a long time ago was that if we only knew the nature of the reality, we would realize that we are never without, that we always have within reach everything we need. Always. Either within for knowledge or without physically. That you could be sick and sitting right next to a plant that may be the very thing that you need. If you just open your eyes and listen. And I remember right after I got that lesson, I was with my wife was going, I don't know. She was one of these ones that were always challenging things all the time. I don't know. She says, we need a gas can right now. We don't have a gas can. She was going like this, like that, because we needed this gas can for this car. And I was going. So we were, as she was saying this, we were walking down to this beach. Down, we lived on this lake. It was 2 miles around, and there was nobody for. Well, the nearest neighbor was 2 miles away, and then the next neighbor was about 4 miles from there. So we were all by ourselves out in the middle of the forest. And we were walking down this lake as we were talking. She goes, she said, I need a gas can, and there's no gas can. She goes, some things you got, you don't have like that. And we walked down, we sat down on this rock, I remember, and we were just sitting there for a moment, and all of a sudden I looked over, and over this rock, about 20 feet away from me, was the most incredible gas can I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, this thing was, I couldn't believe this thing. It was like brass with this, I mean, it was incredible. It must have been like a $100 gas can or something. And I said, there's one. It worked for about 2 days, and that was it. She was right back again. I remember we ran out of money. The angels told us never to work, that they would provide all the money for us. All we had to do was just to continue following our heart and doing what we're supposed to do, and everything would be taken care of. And so I had some money when I left there, so that was real easy to do. And we went and lived in this place out in the woods. And then we lived there for several months while I was sort of living on this money. And then the money started to run out. And as it started running out, my wife started getting one more antsy all the time. You know, and it got to the place where she was starting to get downright belligerent toward me. And I said, but we said we're not supposed to work. I don't care, we need money. And we got down to $12 to my name. And the next day we had to make a car payment or something, or we'd lose the car. I don't remember. It was $180 I needed the next day. And she was just going nuts all day long and all night long. And we went to bed that night, and she was just pissed off at me and everything. And I was going, how can I, you know, because I was just wanting to, I didn't care what happened to me. That was the problem, you know, I mean, because I just wanted I wanted to follow this thing to the end. And wherever the end was, or where it starts the beginning or something, I don't know, but I wanted to keep going with it. And so we went to bed that night, all pissed off. And about midnight, and really, you got to realize, I am in the middle of nowhere. So I went to bed, and that night, about midnight, there's a knock on the door. And I get up and I walk in there, and here's this old friend that I hadn't seen for a long time. And he'd been trying to get to me for about 3 days. He didn't even know where I lived, so it was hard. And he finally found me about midnight. And I came in, and I wake up my wife, and we go into the kitchen, we sit down, and he says, you remember that money you gave me like 3 years ago or something like that? And I go, no. And he goes, well, I just want to tell you, saved my life and all this kind of stuff. It takes about $3,000 and goes, and cash on the table and says, thank you. And my wife's sitting there going, like this. And then he stays the night and he leaves the next morning. And $3,000 was a fair amount for us because we only lived in about, I don't know, just a couple hundred a month or something. I mean, it was that much. So we lived high in the hog for a while. And started living, and everything was fine. Boy, she didn't say a word for a long time. And then we started running out of money again. And we started going through the same thing all over again, and we got down to $16 this night. And the same thing the whole night before. Gotta get a job. And we go to bed all pissed off all over again. And I actually was laughing afterwards because it was almost the same minute. It was about midnight, about the same time again. Knocking the door again. Open the door. And this is somebody different. This goes all the way back to Berkeley, like a long time ago. I hadn't seen this person. And it says, I finally found you. Been trying to find you. You remember that money you gave? Yeah, I guess. I was very generous a lot of times. I used to give away cars and everything else because it always came back. I discovered that part of the... I heard about the karma and I tested it out and it really works. I don't know if you know this or not, but when you give things away, you better get a big bucket because it's going to come back at you more than you give. It just is true. It just really is true. And so anyway, it wasn't quite 3,000, but it was about 1,800. Big cash pile. Thanks a lot. You know. Well, when that money ran out, she left me. Anyway. So that's kind of how it is. You know, I've just been following all along. I've always had problems with almost anybody that's been tried to live with me. It's hard because I just refuse to go play by the rules, but they usually are. And I've always been fine. Everything's been just fine. More than fine. So anyway, I'll give another example of this, and then I think we have to go to the other one we do. The last example is the name of this person that I put on that list. I'm saying this one because she wants to help other people, and this was a pretty good one. Actually, I'll say a real quickie one before. There's this lady named Diana Gazes who used to have a TV show in New York City called Gazes into the Future on closed, what do you call it, cable. Went up to a couple million people. And we were good friends for a long time. And one of the things, she quit for a while. She's now in England, setting up the same thing over there. But she, while she was in New York, one of the last things that she was filming right before she quit was this young boy who was, and this is all on video, this young boy who was, well, when he was a kid, he collected salamanders. He had jars and jars of salamanders. I don't know if you know what a salamander is, but salamander is weird because if you pull a tail off or you pull a leg off or something, it just grows another one. They don't know how it does it, but it does. It just grows another one. And so when he was about 11 years old, he lost his leg from somewhere between his hip and somewhere up in here. Lost one of his legs completely. And what I attribute it to is that the parents forgot to tell him that was only for salamanders. Because he grew another leg. He grew another one. And it's on, they videoed it. Once they started growing, they actually started recording it. And he grew this whole leg all the way down. At the last end, right at the end of the video when they were doing it, he's growing the toes on. And it's supposed to be impossible, but yeah, it's not. It's all what you believe. It's your belief patterns. It's what the thing is. This is where the real key comes into. It's what you believe can be possible, what you believe is true, and it's the limits that you put on yourself.
Maybe the salamander taught him how to do it. He believed in him so much that he got magic from it as well.
Well, possibly, but more than likely, I think he just saw that as saw the salamander do it. And when I said that, people laughed, but I don't think he never was told. He never got the programming that wasn't possible.
I spoke to Diana because I was going to work with somebody with limb regeneration, and she said he was retarded. He was mildly retarded.
He was? Oh, that's what did it. He was mildly retarded. So did she ever give you the video?
No, she said the kid's in France. There's a big, I don't know the NPRs, but there's a really big institute here, and they're documenting it, and they're trying to study how he's doing it and everything, and he was, he's in France.
Thanks for that.
But that's why
I was going to get in touch with. Do you know where she is in England now?
I have her number home.
I would like that if you give it to me. Speaking of her number, just a real quickie on Diana. I don't know if I said this in the last workshop, but I'll say it in this one anyway. We were doing that. She's a psychic. She teaches metal bending, you know, take metal and melt it and all this kind of stuff with your mind. And she goes to executives and teaches them how to do this so that they can see this and apply it into their business somehow. And so she was in Hawaii and I was in New Mexico, and we were doing experiments back and forth psychically on healing. And we had set up this one pattern of healing where we were going to do it for 10 days. And I was going to do this particular thing every night for 10 days, and then I was supposed to call her, and we were going to compare notes of what happened. And on the third day, I decided not to do it without telling her, you know. And when I went to call her, she wasn't there. I couldn't get her. So I remember I went in, and I said to the angels, she's not there. Because I was doing this in conjunction with the angels. I said, well, she's not there. What do I do? And so they gave me the phone number. They said, call this number. So I call this number up, this 808 number. Didn't know what it was. Call it up, and Diana answers the phone. And I said, oh, hi, Diana. And she goes, Droompalo? And I get, yeah, how you doing? She goes, Droompalo? And I said, what's wrong? She says, Droompalo, I was just walking by this phone booth. She said it started ringing and she just felt pulled over to it. She still kids me about it all the time. Anyway, this lady, Doris Davison, was in. She was a woman in California, and she was in her 50s, and she had been in a wheelchair for 12 years. And she had polio, I think it was, and her legs were like little toothpicks. Couldn't even hardly move or anything. The doctors told her she would never walk ever again, which I believe is like execution, you know. I mean, you should never say that because it takes away all hope, all possibility. This is why I think it's so difficult to heal the AIDS patients, because they all believe that there's no cure and no possibility, and so they all are going around with this thing saying there's no hope, there's no hope. You know, and it really reinforces it. It's hard to break a pattern when you've got that feeling going. Anyway, she picked up one of Katrina's books. It was the healing, Crystal Enlightenment, I think it was. Yeah, the first one, Crystal Enlightenment. And it said something in there, I don't know what it was that said it in there, but it triggered her, and she started thinking that maybe crystals would help her. And she got a hold of Katrina at the Crystal Academy in Taos, and they started talking. And in the course of the conversation, Katrina found out that this woman was a walk-in, and decided that it might be better if I talked to her than her for some reason. I don't know why they came to that conclusion. So this woman calls me up and says that she wanted to know if I could help her. So I got permission from her higher self. I asked her higher self, what do you want me to do? And all it said was, talk to her on the telephone, talk to her about her beliefs, about her belief patterns. Break her belief patterns. That's all the higher self said to do. Didn't say send any medicines or anything like this. So I talked to her on the phone. We talked for like an hour once a week or so. And I just kept talking to her kind of like about the things that I'm talking about now, to try to convince her that what you believe is true, and just because you're in a situation that is supposedly hopeless doesn't mean a thing. You can change it if you truly believe that you can. Right. Well, you can be healed as fast as you can accept. That's what it really is. You want to be healed slow, you can be healed slow. If you want to be healed instantly, you can be healed instantly. It's all your faith in what your belief is. And so we talked to her for a long, I don't remember all the exact dates and all this stuff and everything, but I talked to her for a long time, and finally I got her to the place where she said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I mean, she had this deep conviction, I'm going to do it. I am going to heal myself. I'm going to do it. I don't care what they say, I'm going to do it. And so she went out, and got rid of her wheelchair, and got these special braces made all the way up her legs and hips, and got one of these 4-poster kind of things like this, and started walking around her house like this with great difficulty, and walked all around her house for that way for a long time, still talking on the phone. And she had her son that was helping her, who was in his 20s, I think. And she did that for a couple months or so, and then her legs got a little stronger, kind of. And she switched from this is what I remember. It may not be exactly right. This is kind of how I remember what it was. She then switched from there to regular crutches and learned how to walk on regular crutches. Did that for a while, and then she went to. Then she got different kinds of braces that didn't go all the way up from her hips, but went down further, down like here on down. Then she walked around that for another couple months or so, and then she got these other braces that just went from the bottom down to here. And then she walked around for another couple months doing that, and then she got rid of the crutches and was able to walk around with these special braces, but with very slowly, with difficulty. Her son saw that and he left. Figured she's okay now, and took off and went into the Navy, I think it was, or one of the military things. She's left alone now, walking, barely able to walk, but walking around. She did this for a little while longer, until she got pretty good, and she went down to the motor vehicles and got a driver's license. And then she went back and sold her house. She went down and then bought a brand new RV. And she drove out to New Mexico and walked into one of my workshops. And we had stairs in this thing, about 4 of them, and she walked up and down the stairs and nobody helped her or anything, and she got back down all on her own. She didn't want anybody to help her. And then she went to work for Katrina as her secretary. I then didn't see her for about 8 or 9 more months. She just disappeared. Didn't see her. One day I'm walking down the street of Taos, New Mexico, and here comes this woman skipping down the street. She walks up to me and I'm looking at the doors. She goes, "Look at me!" She says, "I am 100% healed. Totally normal. You would never guess. Totally normal legs, everything." She says, "I am 100% healed." And she skipped around a little bit, did a little jig, and gave me a big hug. And it's just been a good friend ever since. She moved to back east, and I don't see her anymore. She sends me a postcard all the time. She sends me a Christmas card every year. But totally healed, 100%, of something supposedly impossible. All from just one thing, your belief patterns, nothing else. So is there any questions on this? I could keep going for a long time, but we've only got 45 minutes. Yeah.
Why do you not need to ask permission for healing your children? Aren't they souls of their own free will that may have their own ways of working things out that could be violated?
Yeah. If you feel that way, you should probably ask. I feel, for me, my feeling is that they're in my care. While they're in my care, then it's for me to take care of them, and that I have that right. But if you feel that in that way, then you should ask permission first. But I would only feel that way toward my own immediate children that I'm taking care of. I wouldn't feel that way if they were even older. But when they're just a little baby like that, I feel like it's, I don't know. I would ask the higher self what to do, but for me, I just felt like I had that permission. But I understand what you're saying. Yes. We have that.
When you ask the question, do you do it verbally or non-verbally? I mean, that's one question. If you're in a healing session with someone and you're asking if...
You ask the person verbally, right. You ask their higher self non-verbally.
Okay. What if they're comatose? I mean, you can't...
That's a different situation. Okay. And if they are, a technique has been given to me for that situation. I'll give it to you. And this is what they told me to do. And I have had a few experiences in this one. If someone's, you go along a road and they're unconscious, there's just been an accident or something, you can't ask their permission, then you assume you've got it and you ask their higher self to come in. And then you ask their higher self, what can I help this person? If you get permission from their higher self, they proceed. If you don't, then just help them and to be comfortable and take care of them, but don't work on any other level. Let them, even if it means letting them die, it's okay. It means that's what they're supposed to do. There is a technique, though, that if you do get permission, I know how you can keep a person that is unconscious alive indefinitely, without any machines or anything. And all you do is you see their crystalline field. You see, death is nothing but moving from moving out of balance toward either the north or the south pole. If you move completely into either one of the poles, you die. And unconscious means that they're very close to one of those poles. They're way out of balance. It's a balance issue. And so if you see their tetrahedral field, and you then begin the breathing with my own field, but I time it to theirs so that my breathing is timed to their field. And you just begin doing the first 6 breaths, and which is the polarity balancing. And you just you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, come back to 1 and repeat it again. And you keep doing that to them. You keep that in there as long, with their permission, your higher self permission. Then what happens is that person cannot die. They can't. You're keeping them from dying. And you have to, but the only thing is you have to keep doing that until they go conscious. And then once they go conscious, then you switch to coming down with a tube and get their flow going, and that's usually all you have to do. However, it may not be more than just a few minutes or days. I mean, it may be more than one day. And when I was approached with that situation once, where I had to go, at the end of the day, I was still doing it, and I had to get some sleep, the higher self just said to program that I was going to continue doing it, and go to sleep, and then pick it up the next morning, and it works. And I put someone through 3 days that way, where the French hospital had thought they were dead so much they put them in a body bag and put them over in the corner.
Oh.
And we managed to bring them back and get them back out just from doing that for 3 days long. So it works.
I have a few short questions, and I also want to honor your time. Have you...
Oh, I'm here. I'm here for you today. I can't even leave the chair. It's up to you. I mean, all I need to know is when you want to close, and I'll close.
Well, has the teaching been complete at this time besides the questions?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I feel it's all in there now.
Okay, one question is the geometric language, or the, how far does that go into the dimensions?
Just ask that question. not too long ago.
Somebody already asked that
Yeah,
question.
I'll answer it again.
Sorry, that's the
The
second.
geometry stretches through all dimensional levels whatsoever.
Okay.
That's what created all the dimensional levels. However, the geometry may not be recognizable from language, from dimension to dimension. But no more than, like, say, but there is a similarity, like the difference between a two-dimensional flat surface and a three-dimensional object is really very different. It's very, very different. But it's recognizable that the two-dimensional one is the three-dimensional one. And if you were to see a three-dimensional one relative to the four-dimensional one, it would be more distorted in certain ways if you were thinking along mathematical lines. But you would still kind of get the feel. But if you go way up in the dimensions or way down, and not thinking in terms of mathematical models, but rather in wavelength dimensional things, they really do change dramatically. But there was only one pattern, the pattern that is now existing around your body in the third dimension, though it is a third-dimensional pattern here in the third dimension. It's the same one that creates everything, no matter where you are.
Okay. The 32 ascended masters that you spoke of, I'm wondering, was there a purpose of the 32 rather than being 33, or 32 equaling 5?
Well, I think that they chose 32 because the teachers that were, this is a guess. I got to pull a guess out of the thing on this one. But I did kind of think about this before, and there were 32 Syrian members that came in that started our race. It was the father race, and those, and I think that they chose that size because that was who was teaching them this. But that's the only reason I can say. Other than that, I don't know why they chose 32.
Okay, and I've been experiencing, rather than us leaving the third dimension and moving to the fourth, I've been experiencing an overlapping of the fourth and fifth here already, and that there will be, I've been seeing beautiful visions of what's ahead of the children, the educational system, and the living possibilities, and the cooperative, and the harmony, etc. And I know it's here. I know that it's here. So it's like I'm wondering if I know you mentioned that one group would be staying here. Perhaps this is already happening.
You mean we've already shifted?
That the shift is already in process. There's an overlapping already occurring.
There is an overlapping of certain energies as we approach this. It's true. There's a certain overlapping, and the process is well underway. But there is a very distinct time. We will come to a place where our thoughts will become more and more powerful. Our feelings will become more and more powerful. The manifestation in this reality, as we approach them, becomes more and more powerful if we can control it. If we can control our emotions and be in a merkaba and these kinds of things, if we can focus, we could feel an overlapping, and all the energies are going that direction. But there will come a day of a very distinct change. And you'll say, this is definitely different than what was before. And that's what I'm referring to at that time. But there is it's just like all the pyramids were built first on the fourth dimensional level of the earth. And then we coincided with their structures on the third dimensional level. The reality has been already created on the fourth dimension, this dream that we all want and that we all have agreed upon is already functioning on the fourth dimension. And I think that you're just tuning to it and feeling it,
And just one comment, and then I'll go to these eager hands. I just want to mention that the dolphin trips that I get information about have been keenly lined up with specific dates, and a lot of it has to do with grid work.
and specific information is about specific grid lines, etc. And I've been told that when people come back, that they're like light vortexes, and they have the options. There's specific information that comes in about what they can do, and always be a choice, of course. But it's like there is a lot of grid work going on with many other people, also with many other ventures going out in different areas. And I don't know if you would want to comment on that at all.
Okay. Most of the grid work of the planet was done prior to 1989. There was a period of time from about, most of it started in about the 1980s and went to about 1989, where, and specifically, especially in 84, 85, 86, and 87, there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people all over the world that were drawn to sacred sites all over the world, who had these crystals and all these things and didn't know why they were doing these things. And you guys are probably a lot of them. And had to go there and make chants and all these other things and walk around pyramids and wondering why you were doing it, but you know you had to do it. And that was the final alignment and setting up of all these sites that were around the world. And it was real important. And then when the grid finally was activated and it became alive and completed, which was, I believe it was February 4th of 1989, then there was, it was actually there and completed. What's now occurring is very fine level tuning. It's really minute tuning. It doesn't require the numbers of peoples that there were before. Instead of, there's probably at least 100,000 people doing that or more. At this point, it's really just handfuls of people who, because of the rapid changes in the grid, have to go in there and every once in a while align something here, align something there, which usually means being physically on a certain place in the earth and doing something that usually comes from within that tells you what to do. And so, but there's really not a lot of that going on right now. What is going on is important. That doesn't mean because there's not much going on is important, but there just isn't anything at all like what was happening for a while. And I don't foresee there ever being any for a long time either, because the hard work has all taken place.
In reference to your speaking about the power of two joining together in the merkaba, do you see that there would ever be any need or any purpose served by a large number, such as those of us in this room, joining together in this dimension?
Well, that's not for me to decide. But if I could ever foresee, I could foresee. There must be a reason why the information was given, and the Earth is using it. So I assume that there is a time coming when we are going to use it. Said we would use it, so I think we're going to use it. And so what I see initially, though I can't see much beyond it, is small groups of 10, 12, or in that kind of area, or maybe more, joining together, though there may be some real large groups. It requires one person's spine that has to be, and the group chooses this person, and the person isn't really the leader, they just got to use a spine. That's why they use Duncan. They use Duncan's spine. It requires a human spine to set up the merkaba, or a spine, a dolphin spine, or a whale spine. It's the nature of the thing. It requires a living person at the center. And the dolphins do the same thing. They choose one of them to be the leader. And then they each have their individual merkabas, and then they set up a group merkaba, a huge one, that the whole group is connected to. In the same way with the whales. And this is also why it has a certain downfall in a way. There's always positive and negative things with everything. We're in that kind of world. When one of the whales comes in and beaches themselves, one's 10 miles back. Come in a little while later and come slamming into the same beach. Because they're following this one aspect, that they've chosen that as their center core. but there's no longer individualism when you use the group merkaba. If there was a group of 12 people here right now and they set up a group merkaba, they picked one of them, they set up the fields and they did it, and if it was real, their individualness is gone forever. They are now one spirit with 12 bodies. And they have the same spirit in each one of them. Lots of people do this all over the universe. And it's not unusual. But you got to be ready to do such a thing. And I don't know if we're quite ready there. Soon.
Is that exactly these are personalities?
No, your personalities stay there, but there becomes a single interpretation of the reality is the same in all of them, and you have you ever watched a whole lot of birds fly through the sky?
Yeah.
Those birds aren't individuals. It's a spirit. One spirit, one consciousness. It's moving through them all. You know? You get hungry and you all get hungry. That's what it is. It's time to eat. Time to sleep. And just like in your own body, you've got millions and millions of cells. And they're all individual. They all have their own jobs. They're all their own thing. But you run through them all. Whoever you are, you run through them all.
Would you do that if there were 11 people? Would you be directed to what 11 people to connect with? Or would they be directed to you?
I don't have any direction on direction or desire to do that right now. If the time does not feel right, I did do 3 workshops with groups, which were not really to link the groups together, but to do experiments. And then it was then that I began to realize what was taking place if we did this. And then it was a great dilemma. How do you teach this? Because if you teach it, you become part of the group. And so I'm trying to see exactly when the right time is and what it's about. I just feel we're not quite there yet. A little bit further down the line. Really soon, like maybe next year.
Are you guys all now, or is that something you're just going to select?
I got a feeling you'll probably let me know.
Can you also refer to the concept of ascension as is commonly known? Is that simply establishing the merkaba field and being able to travel with it? Or is that something completely different?
Oh, I thought I said that too. Well, you got 3 things going on here right now. When someone right now can die, if they die, they're going to go through the normal thing. They're going to drop their body. They'll move through their astral body over to, in a certain level, they'll go through the bardo. They'll do their whole step. They'll come up onto about the 3rd overtone of the 4th dimension, and they will exist there in a life kind of like this one, but different. Until a certain time, at which point they will then consciously move from there up to the higher levels. This is what it meant that at the time in Revelations when I was talking about the dead would rise. And that's one possibility. So if you're alive now and you die, you still won the game. If you happen to be aware enough to be conscious, in other words, die, and then through the death, become aware of the merkaba, which is another possibility. Then you can move from there consciously through the great void, and you don't go to the death, the 3rd overtone, you go all the way up to the 10th, 11th, 12th overtone, and that's called resurrection. And you'll reconstruct your body with you, though you won't need the one that you dropped because you'll reconstruct it in a different way. So you don't really need, anyway, you don't, that's another possibility. And that one is very possible, and that's the one that most people will probably do at this point. But there is another possibility, and because it's there, life will use it. And that is of ascension. And ascension is different in that you don't die. There's no dying involved in ascension at all. You just choose the moment, and at that moment, or the moment chooses you, in the case if you wait till the last minute, and at that moment you create your merkaba while you're still, before you die, in the world, and raise your energy levels and take the body with you consciously, right out of here, over through the great void, and right up into the higher dimensional levels. But you all end up in the same place. So what difference does it make? It's like, there's hundreds of thousands of different crystal structures. Which one's better? It isn't better, it's just that it's a possibility, and life will try every possibility. I think that's our instructions, is to try all possibilities, and so we do, and this is a possibility. So there's no wrong or right way. I don't see one way being better, one way. We all end up there, and there's no real losing. You're not better or worse or anything else like that. Suicide in the last week or so. She wanted to know about suicide, especially in the last week or so. You mean you had someone that died in suicide in the last week or so? I don't know how that affects things. I doubt very much if you're going to resurrect if you commit suicide. A being that is on the verge of resurrecting would love themselves too much to do that. So the only option that I could see would be that they would die in a normal way and end up over there in the third overtone. And if the reality is such that I think it is, they will still go on. But they're going to have to let go of a lot of stuff in order to do that. But evidently they can do it. There's a lot of people here that have done a lot worse things than that, and have incredible stuff going on, and are still going to make it. So I don't know. And then maybe these things that the American Indians are talking about, where masses of these people that are really not going to make it. Maybe there are portions of this evolutionary path are not going to make it, and part of them are going to go on to somewhere else. But I don't still quite understand how they go somewhere else, because if I got what I think is coming, they're going to be anywhere else. Everywhere it's going to go. So I don't know if that will really work. Now, those are ancient Indian prophecies, which are just like Edgar Cayce and everyone else, might not really conform to this unique situation. So this is what I mean is it's real hard to try to second guess this situation.
Drumbelow, I'm a little concerned about, well, not concerned. I have some friends who are happily married and some that aren't. And if you're going into the fourth and fifth dimension with your memory because of your merkaba, are you still tied to that person when you go through? Are you still the wife or the mother or the whatever to these beings that you remember from the third dimension going in?
No, you're not, unless you want to be. It's strictly till death do you part, and
considered like the death,
yeah,
as far as that's
concerned. You can. You can if there is true love there, then true love will find itself again. It just will. You tend to move this number 32, this is another thing about the number 32. If you ever look at people that study past lives, you will find an interesting phenomenon. Almost everybody that studied past lives will find this, is that people tend to die and be reborn in groups. In these groups, these little groups that move in and out together. Like the mommy becomes the son becomes the daddy, and all these various things, or the good friend becomes the other friend over here, or something else like that. And they move in and out together. And
Or a whole basketball team.
whole basketball team. Globetrotters, they've been doing this for a long time.
John, when you refer to Earth as a starseed, and we also know on Earth here we have people that do have emotional problems that are out doing things that they shouldn't be doing, hurting people one way or another. Is there any chance that Earth would remain in a 3D reality where these people would still have a low-grade school where they have to learn to overcome hatred and envy and jealousy?
I don't know. That's one of the ones that I really don't know.
Is that the way it was supposed to be before this?
Oh, well, yeah, it would have. Normally, what would happen?
That's what was the plan.
Is a small part would go up in the fourth, and then the other ones would just have to stay back down here longer until they learn the lessons of life. And then those that were up in the fourth of that planet would slowly keep working. They're like the ascended masters. They figured it out. However, what happens with those guys is they usually go up real fast after that to the highest level possible of that planet. That's what all the ascended masters did. They got way up there, and everybody else was still down here because they moved up real fast and got up in the 6-dimensional levels and things. Because once you make that first step, the rest of them are easy after that. They're much easier.
What would happen to those people now under the new scenario?
Either the third dimension is still going to be here, and they're going to have to deal with the situation down here that has been left, or we're all going to go, one way or another.
And they'd be alive.
They'll get it. They'll get it if they go.
I just never could figure out how they could. I mean, when the members of the Ascended Masters that I was communicating with said that they thought we were all going to go, I mean, I was just like, how? I mean, how can people who are so, these totally crazy people who've been killing people and everything else, what's going to happen that could possibly align all that? And I just keep looking at it, and that's why more than anything else, if this is really true, it's got to be God coming in here, because
it's the only one that would forgive you.
There must be some way. Well, it's really a matter of them forgiving themselves more than anything else. That's really the key. And so I don't know. If this is really true, and if all this happens on these kinds of levels, and it isn't just a normal scenario that's happening, I thought about this so much. There would have to be some incredible event that happens on Earth, the likes of which would just, I don't know what it would be. I keep thinking of all these things, But if it were not for this other factor coming in here, if it were not for the higher aspect of the Ascended Masters, and for all the work of lots of people that are changing things, I think that we would be in real trouble, real trouble, coming real fast. But there is no. But from my point of view now and everything I can see, there's no problem here. I mean, we're going to make it. In terms of how well the Earth is going to make it, and whether or not people are going to be here, and those kinds of things, whether or not someone else is going to come back in here and use it again, and all those kind of things, I don't know. I just don't know.
I have my page of questions, but they're really short ones.
Page of questions?
I've been keeping for the whole thing. But most of them have been answered. Earlier you said that in this scenario God was going to be intervening. Could you give us an example of how that?
What I said was,
it
appears like God is intervening. And God has not said, I am now intervening. but it definitely appears that way to me. And so...
In what way?
I thought I made... Okay. In the nature of the way that the evolutionary pattern is unfolding on Earth, the speed at which it's occurring, the incredible flawness of the way the movements are being made from one step to the next, the way that we are still here in this room at this moment, which I can hardly believe. And these kinds of things. No, I don't mean that kind of thing. I mean in this room that I can hardly believe, just on the planet, because it appeared to me, by everything I know, that we should be out of here by now. And nothing is going by the rules. All the rules are being broken, and so from my way of seeing, it appears to me, in the way that all life is focusing on here, just the whole nature of the situation appears that something very big, very powerful is occurring. Maybe it isn't God. Maybe it is only the biggest being in the universe is acting on it.